Hello everyone. Well, in this video, I'm going to discuss how to access the endpoint which are secured. So far in our test, the endpoints which we are accessing are not secured. That means anyone who has the link to the endpoint can access the data from the server over the public domain. But in the real time, that will not be the case. All the endpoints which are exposed over the public domain will be secured. They might be secured using the basic authentication mechanism or token-based authentication mechanism. And in some cases, endpoint also uses SSL certificates. So in our test application, there are endpoints available which are secured using the basic authentication mechanism. So these are the endpoints which are secured using the basic authentication mechanism. So in basic authentication mechanism, you need to provide the username and password along with the request so that server can process and identify whether the request is coming from a valid user or not. So this is how the flow works. This is our client and this is our server. Client is going to send the request to the server. And along with the request, client is going to attach the authentication information. Once server receives the request, it is going to process the authentication information, and based on that, it will identify whether the request is coming from the right user or not. In case if the user is not right, server is going to respond back to the client with 401. That is the status code for unauthorized. And in case if the request is coming from the valid user, server is going to respond back to the client with the information what the client is looking for. And that is why it is called as basic authentication, because the authentication information is directly attached to the request itself. So let me try to access some of the endpoints which are secured using the basic authentication via Postman. So this is our base URL. I will create the GET request. And this is the endpoint URL. When I'm sending the request, I'm not going to attach any authentication information. And let's see what happens. So as you can see here, server responded back us with 401 unauthorized status code. And this is the error message. And from the error message, we can easily understand that we need to add the authentication information along with this request. So in the Postman, you can navigate to the authorization tab. From the drop down, select the basic auth and specify the username and password. Now let me send the request again. So once I have attached the authentication information, I am able to access the endpoint and get the data from the server. Let us also look at our headers tab. So the moment I attach the authentication information in the request, Postman automatically attach a new header, and the header name is authorization. And the value is the encrypted version of our username and password. So let me take this encrypted text and try to decode it. So by default, when you use the basic authentication mechanism, it uses base64 format for encoding and decoding. So when I decode this encrypted string, this is our username and password. So along with the encrypted value of username password, we need to prepend with the basic also. So that's how the server will know that it is a basic authentication mechanism. Now let me show you how it is done in the Karate framework. So inside the top level package, I'm going to add one more package. And let me call it as secure. Inside this package, I'm going to add one more package called get request. And inside the newly added package, I'm going to add a feature file. Inside this feature file, I will add the feature keyword, provide a short title and a small description. After this, I'm going to create the background section that is going to initialize the base URL for our test application. Then I will create the scenario. Given path and the path for the endpoint, After that, I need to attach the headers because we need to attach the authentication information in the form of authorization header and headers. As I'm going to attach multiple headers, that's why I will use the headers keyword. Then I will send the GET request. Then we should receive 200 OK as the status code. And response should not be null. In the similar manner, I am going to add one more scenario where I will not specify the authorization header. In that case, we should receive 401 as the status code. Then I'm going to add the runner for this. And let me run this runner. So both of our scenario are passing. Let me automate one more scenario. In this scenario, I am going to pass the authentication information for different user. So user is author and password is welcome1. And I'm going to generate the base 64 encoded string. And then let me send the request. So we are getting the bad credential, that is this is an invalid user. So in our feature file, let me add the scenario for this one. And let me run the runner. So all the scenario are passing. So in our test application, whatever the endpoints you see under the secure job portal controller, all those endpoints are secure using the basic authentication. But the working of all these endpoints are similar to the endpoints which are not secure. So basically from the functionality point of view, all these endpoints are same, only the difference is that these endpoints are secure using the basic authentication.